going. Welcome back to With All Due Respect. Hi, I'm Amanda Thebe, and today I am joined by Jill Angelo, who is the founder and CEO of Gennev. Gennev is a company I really love and admire and send women to all the time. Their mission is to improve the standard of care for women in their post-reproductive years. Gennev offers a unique integrated care model that brings together telehealth-based OBGYNs and other health coaches, and they provide medical and lifestyle treatments for the menopause relief. Okay, so Jill has 20 years experience in the tech industry, previously at Microsoft in executive roles such as Chief of Staff, Director of Global Media and Product Management. She's also a member of the Board of Directors for the Special Olympics of Washington, which I'm actually excited to hear about. That interests me. And get this, she was named one of Inc. magazine's 2020 top 100 female founders. She's the driving force for bringing effective health solutions to women. And we're going to talk about Jill's story and then also about Gennev today. So welcome very much to the podcast. It's good to see you again, Jill.
It's wonderful to be here. Thanks for having me, Amanda.
Okay, so I just want to get deep and dirty quick, right? So can we talk about where you came from and what led you to build Gennev? Like, so you essentially starting in your executive roles at Microsoft. Like, why did you leave your job?
Yeah, I'm an unlikely suspect for a women's health company in menopause, certainly. My background is tech. I've grown my entire career in the tech industry, working on big software applications. And at one time, I was working on Xbox of all things. So I was kind of in the gaming space and loved every minute of it. I happened to be on a sabbatical in my 15th year at Microsoft. I took 3 months off, which was pretty common amongst employees. And during that time, I met what then was my co-founder for Gennev. And she is an older woman. She is really credited with building Neutrogena into the big global brand that it is. And then she sold it to Johnson & Johnson. And when I met her, we really connected over women's health. And she really made it so apparent to me how underserved women's health was in menopause in particular. I was just starting to enter perimenopause myself. And so through that, one step led to another, and we started Gennev just to fill this gaping hole in women's healthcare that just is unmet.
Why menopause though? Like, why not the whole thing? So I'm assuming it's because she maybe had a challenge in time, because usually these things are driven by our personal experience. And you'd said you just entered perimenopause. Was it really just based on that you were in it and you were like, where the hell is everyone when I need their support?
Yeah, I think more than anything, so my symptoms were not that severe at that point, not as severe as they are now. I'm full on in perimenopause, so I'm a customer of what we do. But at the time, as we were talking through what happens during this change in a woman's life, what really compels me to do things is when, as human beings, especially as girls and women, our confidence is challenged. And every time I've done something, whether it's philanthropic or something that really moves me throughout my life and career, it's always been tied to these moments in our lives when our confidence is impacted by external forces, whether it's when we first get our periods and we're self-conscious about it, or whether we go through junior high and girls drop out of science and maths, those moments. And then as I looked at menopause, it is yet another transition in our lives where we're at the top of our game. Professionally, we are earning more money than we ever have. We might feel some freedom as moms, in terms of kids are growing up. But all of a sudden, our health is changing in a way that causes us at times to be embarrassed or ashamed or shudder in. And I was like, okay, that can't happen again. Like, I need to do something. And so that's what really drove me to say, let's go fill this gaping hole. I don't know what that looks like, but we'll figure it out. And we were off to the races.
And leaving your job after so long and at such a high level must have been a little bit scary or maybe daunting for you, was it? Was it like, no, I'm just going to do this? Like,
It was. I always, so I grew up in a rural part of the US on a cattle ranch, and my parents obviously were entrepreneurs. And I always thought, wow, I never want to be responsible for someone else's paycheck. Like, I want to just work for a company, have security around income, and being an entrepreneur and starting a company like Gennev is completely the opposite. You're completely vulnerable. I think one thing that I have, it's either a gift and a curse, or it's both a gift and a curse, is I'm naive to how hard things are. And I'm naively optimistic. I am just like, oh, well, let's go figure this out. And so it was a rather quick decision. Yeah, I was concerned about income, about career. My husband was a driving force in saying, just go after it, Jill. If anyone can figure this out, it's you. And so with that, I just jumped in. So it was naive optimism. Sometimes I get the question, like, if you knew how challenging this would be to start a business and get it funded for a part of women's life that nobody, including women, don't want to talk about, would you do it again? And I have to say yes, because for me personally, obviously the stories, what I hear from women, the impact we're making is just profound, and it makes my life fulfilling every single day. But also for me, it's just made me fearless, and it's fun to do big, challenging things and see how you can, drive your own personal ability to muster through challenge. And that's been rewarding.
Especially at this time of life. In fact, I don't even think it's fun. I think it might be one of the essential things women should strive to do. And I don't mean start a new business. I mean to step out of their comfort zone a little bit and to just see what the possibilities are. Because one of the conversations I'm really keen to sort of keep pushing is the idea that this can be a really great transformative time of our life, despite the challenges thrown at us, challenges from the symptom side of things to the medical gaslight, and you name it, whatever. I mean, in the workplace, my background was actually so similar to yours. I loved working for a company. I worked in a stockbrokers and then a bank and then for IBM. And I loved working for a company where I had to dress like in a suit every day, and it just felt really great. But then I left countries and I moved to the US and couldn't get a job. I couldn't get a visa because I wouldn't marry my now husband. But at the time I wasn't prepared to marry someone for that. So the US wouldn't grant me any type of visa to work. So that was when I essentially, about 20 years ago, just thought, I'll just do my own thing then. And oh my God, when I did, it was like so freeing. And I don't think I could ever go back to that, working for the suits again, essentially.
Yeah, I agree with you. It is, you kind of, once you catch the bug, it unleashes what you are able to do. And even, as this time of our lives, there's studies even shown that even chemically, as hormones are shifting in our bodies, our creativity, especially on the other side of, kind of in our postmenopausal years, is just kind of unleashed. And I can't wait for what that looks for. Like, it's just this bright, shining up light. I'm always looking ahead anyhow, but just, Amanda, think about what's ahead of us.
I know, exactly. And, we both have a mutual colleague called Celine Yeager, and I had her on my podcast. I just did a recording with her, and she sort of said, if we can talk about menopause being a tunnel rather than a cave as we journey through. And I just thought, I love that analogy of having the light at the end. And I've now 3 years post-menopause, and I have to say it's a good place to be. And as well as being basically rid of symptoms, it's this newfound freedom and optimism that I am dying to share with women, to sort of say, yeah, you know what, we can do it. Look for the support and the help to get through this. And essentially that's what Gennev does, right? So the femtech industry is huge, right? Which is, I think, as you said about yourself, could be a blessing or a curse. It depends on how we look at this. And menopause is potentially the new big shiny object that people want to look at. But I feel as though when I look at femtech and menopause, I see things that don't always sit well with me, like the new face cream or the new tea or whatever. And it's usually stuff that really isn't always backed by evidence. And I feel like it's just a quick buck. like off the back of women's vulnerability. And I know that that's definitely not what Gennev wants to do. It's trying to provide a resource. And I hate the word holistic, but that's essentially what it is. It's the body, mind, soul connection of everything, like the food you eat, the exercise you do, the pharmaceutical, non-pharmaceutical routes that you want to have to support yourself through this journey. How do you, though, differentiate yourself from the others? I don't want you to, we're not going to name names or anything, but it's just a really hard place to sit when my spidey senses go off all the time. And I'm like, oh God, here we go again. You know, I do, because I'm always rattling off about it. But how do you differentiate yourself?
Yeah, this is a great question, Amanda, and I love the humor you bring to this whole femtech space. So if that, we all need to laugh, and you just give us all a great laugh. Femtech's massive, and it needs to be, because women's health is complex, and there's lots of aspects to us throughout our cycle of life. As you think about menopause, I think on the plus side, with new menopause brands and companies popping up, people are quick to want to share what's worked for them. And then they're sharing it with their friends. And before you know it, the friend is like, hey, you really should start a business around this thing. And I think that's where you're starting to see a lot of different, probably non-evidence-based products and solutions and programs and you name it popping up. And I often say when we started Gennev, the one of our core principles was everything we do has to be evidence-based and medically backed. And to me, there is so much noise, and what we hear from women all the time, how do I cut through? How do I cut through the crap and the stuff and the noise? And at the end of the day, you can't argue science, although in some ways people still do. Obviously.
You want to bet? We've just had 2 years of COVID.
I know. But for the most part, and I think we're playing the long game. We don't want a quick fix, get rich sort of mentality to tackling this important part of women's health. We want to take the evidence-based long game to say, you know what? It takes, like you said, the medical, the prescription, the diagnosis, the medical guidance, as well as the holistic lifestyle, the mindfulness, nutrition, fitness, sleep. And we put that all together because every woman goes through this transition in a way that's unique to her. And so by bringing the best of the best professionals who have studied in this and are in it ethically for the treatment of their patients. Our professionals have taken an oath to their patients, like no revenue. In fact, many times if I were to say, who in Gennev in my team keeps us from like blowing out like big promotional things on this, that, or the other, it's my medical team, because they say, Jill, I'm not here to sell anything to my patients. I am here to provide to them the best care that's right for them. And that's my job. And I love that about what they do, because it's so pure. And at the end of the day, I just hope that we're a source of support and trusted help for women, even if they've tried other products or things that appear to look good. We will always be here as that trusted source to care for women and provide treatment in whatever way they need, any way they need provided.
And it's interesting to me because you're based in the US. I'll just say that for people listening. And what's really interesting to me is when I spent 4 years there, I actually saw how the US healthcare system works, and it's not fun. It's not fun to be part of at all. But if you've got insurance and you've got money, then you're sorted. And if you don't, then you're not. And it's just really hard to sort of like really navigate the system. And in the meantime, there's a lot of private clinics, especially where I was in Texas, where, there's women would go and see a doctor that was registered with the North American Menopause Society, so they felt it was an ethical source, but then would be upsold with testosterone pellets or compounded hormones and things that were non-regulated and actually not supported by the North American Menopause Society. And it really upsets me, because in my group I'll hear women talking about it, and they're spending $400 and $500 a month on hormones when they could get them on their insurance, on most insurance plans, including Medicaid, for the regulated hormones. Anyway, so that's what you do. That's when you're talking about ethical. They're the doctors that you use. Your doctors only write prescriptions for regulated, FDA-approved hormones. right?
Absolutely. Clinically backed. They're all MDs. All of them are OBGYNs, certified by the North American Menopause Society as well. But yes, it's all clinically backed. We write your prescription to your pharmacy of choice. So you are going to the pharmacy where you prefer, and your insurance covers that prescription. And I think one other distinction, especially around the compounded kind of pellets or hormones that women oftentimes are paying big bucks for, beyond not being regulated, they also claim oftentimes they're natural. They're more natural. They're based off of your own chemistry as a person. And oftentimes, like, our doctors will argue a lot of the time, they're still synthetically based, in terms of plant. There's no way to mirror your own DNA or, kind of makeup as a human being. And so oftentimes a lot of the claims they're making as a result of not being regulated, they're also making claims that just simply aren't true.
It's marketing for sure, isn't it? I mean, it's the natural fallacy, right? It's like, it's appealing, and nobody's taking a yam and chopping it in half and rubbing it on their thigh. I mean, it's literally synthesized in a lab. And what's interesting is compounding pharmacies use drugs that originally started off in a regulated state and then remove them from that state by, I always say, mixing them with sawdust and mouse poo or something. But I mean, that's just me. No, but I'm just, it's really important that women know that there are safe and effective treatments out there that, and you guys push that. So the next thing I want to talk about, and one of the things I love about Gennev is, so, you have this a service angle for women, but you've done a lot of work on building communities. And you've done campaigns, I've been a part of them, that really try and elevate the voice of women, because I think you see the value in this grassroots movement of, like, it can't just be us, it has to be all of us. We have to, like, come together as women to just get heard, right? So, I mean, is that something that just came upon you? Because for me, the community literally was what saved me. I was isolated and alone, and I ended up gathering people around me, and I realized the power of it. And also research backs that to be, part of the journey and the help, right? How did you sort of, like, get the inspiration to evolve your community?
And this is going to be the wildest correlation to community you ever thought you'd hear from me, but I'm going to start there. So I told you I worked at Microsoft for 15 years, and you wouldn't think of Microsoft as the place for community, but the way that company got to be the size and the monopoly that some people believed it was, kind of in the early 2000s and late 1990s, it was through community, through their partner channel, by saying, you know what, we're going to develop this thing, and we invite all of you to build on top of it and to take what we've provided into healthcare and into retail and into manufacturing and construction and you name it. And a big part of my first job at Microsoft was working with this partner community and developing them. And we always said, if the partners are successful, then we'll be successful. And our whole mission was about improving the lives of our partners and customers. And then as a result, we would be successful. And so that notion of greater together, or a rising tide floats all boats, has stayed with me ever since then. And you bring people together versus get competitive. So with menopause, and you think about we just continually hear from women, and you said it yourself, Amanda, I feel like I'm the only one. When you silently suffer, or when you suffer in silence because you're ashamed of something, you're going to turn inward. When in fact, the moment you start to talk about your challenges, I don't care if it's menopause or if it's divorce or losing financial footing or anything in life, the moment you start to bring it up with other people, it's amazing what they have to share in return. We all have stuff in our lives, and that just helps everybody come together and get through their own. And so with Gennev, obviously, because this is such a shameful topic for women generally through the decades, to change that, we had to power every voice and invite every voice to be part of what we were doing. And I still think, Amanda, we've still so much to do. Like, I would love to get us all together to do like a public service announcement and get into every public health program and every, girls, sex education course and insert information about the menopause transition. That's when we truly start to feel things changing and women getting the support and the help they need. And that's going to take a community effort. So
that's like the public health stance on this. And I know that we both know Diane Danzebrink and the work she's done. And it's shown that like one woman literally changed the face of menopause in the UK. And I know lots of others that took credit for it, but she literally was the linchpin that made it happen. And the fact that she got menopause mentioned in the school curriculum was groundbreaking. The fact that she got menopause brought up in the Houses of Parliament and to be pushed forward in workplaces, like just having that type of sort of like person being able to do something like that is inspiring for me. And I did look to see how that might happen in the US, but I just feel like it's a system that's got so many layers to it. Like, I think the UK is probably more accessible in the way it's structured through its government. The US, I just was like, oh my God, that's a headache. But ideally, what I would love to see, and I'm pretty sure you're on board with this, is imagine if when you're 35 and you go for your doctor's appointment for your annual checkup, you get just a leaflet that just says, hey, guess what? This is going to happen to you. And it's just a PSA. It doesn't have to do anything more than just tell women what to expect. I think that would be a game changer. We get it when we're 40 for mammograms. We get it for our colonoscopy. Lucky me, I got that at 50.
I've had a colonoscopy too, and at the age of 46 even. And so it's excuse me, it's all about education.
Yeah. Have a cough. Don't worry. I can fill in the gap with my talk, and it's not like this hasn't happened to me before.
There we go. Who knows where that came from? But yes, I absolutely believe even now as we think about normalizing, one thing my team's really passionate about is normalizing. At the age of 45, every woman goes for a menopause checkup, and we call it affectionately internally the M check. But it becomes routine every year, and then it kicks off a series of treatment or wellness support for a woman. We all need roadmaps. Like, even look at, as a mom, you probably had a pediatrics roadmap for your child. It's the same thing. We need that for us.
I love that. I love the idea of that. And so and then that obviously comes with educating the medical community as well. So yeah, good luck with that one. I mean, so, but I love that like thought. And I think that it can happen. I just think it's just a sense of like stickability and resiliency. Like, we just got to make sure that we just don't take the eye off the goal, right? So for Gennev moving forward, where are you going next? Are you just going to continue to keep doing what you're doing, or do you feel like there's other areas that you want to tackle? Like, is that part of it?
Yeah, we've really, as we've grown with our patients, we want to grow old with them. And so our mission has shifted from just around menopause to post-reproductive care. And because oftentimes so much of how we treat our health during this hormonal shift will impact long-term chronic care, specifically around heart disease and bone health and brain health. And so, and then there's all sorts of things in between there. There's hypertension, there's diabetes, there's GI, there's thyroid. And so as you hear me listing all this off, I want to serve women through the menopause transition and beyond, and serve more of the aspects of what she needs, whether it is getting to a pelvic floor physical therapist to help with her pelvic pain or sexual health, or whether it is getting to, a bone specialist around avoiding osteoporosis when it's very much in your family history and, you can't take hormone therapy because of family history in your past. I want to be able to surround a woman with more of the services that she needs. And so when you think about our roadmap, we're very healthcare focused. You'll see us moving in that direction. My mission is to improve the standard of care. And really, in some ways, it's creating a standard of care for women that just hasn't been.
It should have been there already. Exactly. Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's like that missing gap. Okay, so as we come to a close, I could talk to you forever, of course, but like we both have this message that we want to get out to women, that we really can do this, and the support's there, and we know it can be a positive experience. It doesn't have to be, nobody should suffer. We have that message underlying everything we do. But can you tell me, since you started doing Gennev, how you, in a positive way, how you feel like the conversation has evolved, and then just what you would like to see happen in the conversation about menopause moving forward, if it hasn't already happened?
You know, first of all, there is conversation, and that's exciting. There's just more people talking about it.
Yes.
It's in the press, it's in the media, and that's come with more companies and brands and people doing more and more communities forming. So that's a good thing. You need more conversation. I hope the conversation shifts from sad stories to real possibilities for women, and the path that we're on, and how you take charge of your journey through it. I want this notion of empowerment to just start to come out more in the narrative and the story of what's happening, and for women to know, again, they don't need to suffer. And when you're aware of something for the first time, and you find out, whoa, there's a better way, and I could be feeling great, that's not only going to improve women, that's going to improve the workplace, it's going to improve family structures and relationships. And so that's where I really hope that it goes, in terms of less about the challenging struggles and symptoms women go through. I know in our community, we oftentimes see a lot of, just women need to vent, and I understand that needs to happen, but I'd love to see a shift towards, but here's something you could be doing, or here's another way to look at it, sort of mentality. And again, part of that probably comes from my naive optimism, but I got to hope, and I got to help drive us there.
It's like the I am the change, right? That's what your message was, right? It's like, let's just show women that we're everyday women, and we've done it, and it's there, and it really makes a difference though when you flip the narrative of the conversation, because yes, women do need to vent. I vent all the time, right? We all do, but like, it has to serve a purpose, right? And so like for me, like I really struggled with my symptoms, but as soon as I knew what I was dealing with, then all of a sudden I was like, now I can do something about it. And so it's even just taking those moments of a woman venting and then just saying, so what's the solution? Mm-hmm. Like you all, that's my thing in life, and yours is too, like, so what do we do? What do we do? If you're not great and things aren't well, what do you do? And so
Amanda, you could have written a book about how challenging your situation was. And instead, you're on the cover of it, like looking so strong and fit, and you're kind of demonstrating what's possible. And that's what women need to see every day. And I love and you bring humor. You're just like the funniest person in the world. But we've got to be able to laugh, but then to see the possibilities. And I think that's something that you're really doing in your work.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for coming on today. I love what Gennev are doing. Keep doing it. Don't stop. Eyes on the prize, because I know it can get tiring, but it's worth it. It's so worth it. And I know you've helped so many women in my community, so I appreciate everything that your company has done. And thank you. And thank you everyone for listening today. Take care. Bye for now.